How's it going, everybody? Episode 10. Who would have thought we would have made it to 10? Well, it's the relaunch, really, of Gokhshtein Unfiltered. And I'm joined today by Sean Ford from Algorand. Sean, how's it going?
I'd say pretty good. First, thanks for having me on. I'm, like I said, I'm a big fan, and I think I'm excited to share a little bit about what we're up to. But I would say things are going along very nicely.
Listen, I'm actually excited to have somebody from ALGO on the podcast. I have so many people that go into my DMs just asking me about ALGO, and I'm like, why not I just go out and get the man himself to come on here and break it down for everybody.
Got it. You got it.
It's funny how it's funny, like we met in I don't know, we met on Twitter, like I don't know how, I think I said congratulations because you now are the CEO.
Yeah.
And I think I said congratulations and I hope that you kill it.
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, it would be nice if you followed. And I was
like, it wasn't quite that quick. That is true, but it wasn't quite that. It was like, thank you so much. We went back and forth. And then I was like, if you really care, maybe give me a follow or something like that. But yeah, that was nice. And so that's it.
That was one of my quickest follows. I was like, because I like Algo, and I'm like, quick, okay.
Why not? Why not? That's fine. So,
Sean, who, for people that don't know, I guess your history, because I guess for some, when I had discussions about Algo and you came on, they were like, well, I don't know much about Sean. And I was like, okay, fine. So I'm going to ask him, Sean, give us a little brief background of yourself and how did you come into this position?
Yeah. So I won't go back to the beginning, but I started a while ago. I started in strategy consulting, did that, and then I've been a part of. I would say this is the 3.5 startups. So back in the day, I founded with a couple of people something called UPromise, which people may recall back was college savings front end, 529 back end, a lot of consumer brands, brick and click. That was in the heyday of business plans that got a lot of funding on a napkin, those glory days. And, company did well, scaled up, and, had a decent exit. And then ended up, that really pushed me into tech. So I had been, kind of doing a lot of different things you can imagine as a consultant, but then really took a turn into the tech space and the startup tech space then. And so it's been like 25 years at this point. I do have a number of runs I've done at Oracle. I was there for 4 years through an acquisition. I came in early and did when they started to move into retail vertical or different verticals, retail being one. I was part of that, so that was exciting. And then a number of other tech companies. Last one being a company called LogMeIn, which was a SaaS company, pioneered the freemium idea in the internet and had a number of products like Join Me and ultimately LastPass, but grew that for several years. Was a member of the executive team there and did marketing, e-com, bunch of acquisition work, and then got towards the end and had a random introduction to Silvio Micali, who's the founder of Algorand, MIT professor, Turing Award winner, which is like the Nobel Prize for computer science, and also to Steve Kokinos, who's another kind of local entrepreneur, done a number of startups. And so really that was my introduction into Algorand specifically, although I would say that I'd been following Bitcoin and in the blockchain space for some time, really thinking that if someone can get the tech right, that doesn't mean they always win, but in my opinion, having the tech right is the long-term play for when there's real institutional traction and adoption. And I kind of felt like from the very beginning, Algorand was always a very tech-heavy, very strong, performant, oriented, mindset and company, which is what I found super attractive, maybe comforting to me, given where I came from.
What do you think is Algo's biggest problem in terms of getting out to the mainstream? What is the disconnect there? Because obviously the protocol itself is amazing. Yeah. What's the disconnect with the space? And I don't want to, and at the end of the day, there is a huge community that supports Algo, but what's the disconnect? There is some sort of disconnect.
Yeah, well, I think if you look at, there's a few things, to be honest with you. If you look at traditionally when blockchain and crypto companies start and launch, the single biggest marketing moment for those companies is at the launch of the token, however it's done, whether it's an ICO or whatever, you know, it's an airdrop, whatever it is. And because I think and by the way, feel free, you know, David, just to disagree, but this is my honest running theory, is that, you know, with all new industries, like since the beginning of at least, you know, let's go to pre-United States, but let's say just the beginning of the US, gold rush, oil rush, land rush, all of this is super speculative, and people get in and it captures the imagination early when the event happens, right? When there's the discovery of gold, when everyone believes that this is their ticket. And I think that it's no different with the internet. It was no different with internet startups. It's been no different with blockchain. So why am I saying this? Because at the end of the day, you know, you know, Algorand's, you know, sort of big public entrance was in the middle of a bear market. If you look back to when it happened, we didn't have a ton of activity out of the gate on the chain because we kind of felt like, let's get to market with great tech and start building it now. I don't want to have to time the situation because we're ready to go. But, you know, we didn't have smart contracts ready, so it was limited. You could sort of just move things around. And we really did a baseline, probably beta sort of launch with a really performant product. So I think when you have the big splash, you had the market being where it was, and there's not a lot to do right away on your platform. It captured some imagination quickly, but then I think got drowned out, and we didn't grab that, you know, mind share out of the gate. And so then it became a slog to try to work our way back into the conversation where we should have, from the very beginning, with the tech and with the people involved, been a part of the conversation from day one. And you know how things are. Once people sort of settle in, and to be honest with you, there's still a ton of speculation in the market around why people think something's valuable versus not. And people attach to that psychologically, and you've got to try to break through. And so we then shifted very heavily over, look, we can't control certain things. We can control the tech. We can control building something we think that's probably a little ahead of what the market needs right now and play the long game. And so that's the Reader's Digest. That's the short version of this. But I think we made a bunch of choices where if we had to do it over again, we would have done, I think, some things differently early on. Maybe we would have pushed launch. But we, you know, we are where we are now, and we're in a pretty good, I feel like we're in a advantageous spot.
Are you, with you in control, do you see yourselves now pushing forward with a branding marketing strategy? And what I mean by branding and marketing is, I'm not talking about shilling. That's absolutely not.
No. Yeah.
I'm not talking about getting the guy for, you know, 0.5 ETH to go out there and say buy algo. No, that's not what I'm talking about when it comes to branding. It's more like, hey, branding and marketing is allowing people to understand what algo is all about. And so do you sell, I mean, you entered, it's funny that you said you entered in a bear market, which is true, in a bearish market. Do you see yourselves now marketing within one that we're currently in?
Yeah. So that last piece broke up. Do we see ourselves what?
Do you see yourselves now doing the same? Like you introduced the platform in a bear market. Do you see yourselves now starting to brand and market in a bear market as well?
Yeah, I mean, so again, I would step back to, we then said, you know, the way that we architected the technology here was looking to a point where we felt that there would be broader mainstream adoption from real financial institutions, real companies that were looking for that, you know, before we called it Web3, the Web2 to Web3, you know, shift. And bunch of reasons why that is taken longer than people originally expected, although I don't think we're that surprised. And so our heads down focus, and this is absolute truth, like we spend all our time saying, you know, how do we, you know, really sort of work with committed traditional companies that are interested in moving into the space with confidence. Because, again, if you're a large bank, or you're FIFA, for example, like, let's just say, and you're testing new things, you're not going to go with someone where the tech crashes or where there's security issues. Why would you, when the current system seems to be working just fine? And it's taken a while for us to get to a point where now we're finding, with those companies that are serious about stepping into the space, they really start to evaluate projects the way that you would think they would, which is, what's the best tech? What gives us the capability to do what we already do, but better, either more effective or more efficient, like simple things that's not rocket science. It's just standard, evaluative frameworks. And so we're now at a point where, to your question, are we marketing? I think we have been heads down on building real opportunities, like the one I mentioned with FIFA that was announced. And by the way, continuing to upgrade and invest in the technology. So, by the way, just so that you know, this is an auspicious day. This is the first conversation I've had since we announced FIFA. But today, the software just went live to move Algorand from 1100 TPS to 6000 TPS with absolute finality. And state proofs were launched today. So it's going to take, a week and a half or so for the various, for the protocol to be voted up and to upgrade. So people will start seeing it in 10 days, but it's out and it's available to be accepted by the community today. It's no beta. And so we've continued to innovate, and we've continued to focus on substantive partnerships, and taken that, again, the longer term approach to being the center of gravity for these companies that are serious about moving into Web3.
Well, congratulations on the upgrades. Listen, when it comes to the platform itself, like, I'm never worried about ALGO. My only worry has always been like the branding and marketing. I think allowing people to understand what has been created, because I think it obviously, look, MIT should already ring a bell for people to say, hey, let me look into this. I think for me personally, when I came into the space, we're not coders. We don't know how to code. We don't know C++. We don't know Solidity. We don't know none of this code stuff.
Yeah.
So somebody can go.
But I can give you another angle on. I have another take on this too, which is around to this point, is that I think what we're starting to see is the Algorand Foundation, which is run by Stacey Warden and is completely separate from us, has had a fits and starts, I would say, from an external perspective, watching it. And I think Stacey has really started to amplify and get out there the sort of reach and awareness in a way that the technology, our side, couldn't. And I think I think that will help on the sort of a few of the areas that we're talking about. I also think that if you look at the marketing approach and how we're thinking about moving it forward, for us, it's really, I'm just going to be completely honest. Like, when you start a company with a philosophy that is, we're public and permissionless, where you can run a node in the background of your laptop, it's super low cost, and anyone can come build. It actually sounds great, but it makes it harder to find your strategy, because you find that when you do this, you get people coming from all directions. And if you look at us early stage, there was, should we focus on finance? Should it be DeFi and finance? Should it be gaming? Should it be? And so, just to be totally candid, a lot of debates about it, given that we saw ourselves as this foundation for a borderless economy and building an economy. And I think we could have been more choiceful, but we also felt like, well, we don't want to get out in front and make claims that we're the fastest TPS when it's all rigged in terms of how that's defined, or make claims about the quality of the tech when it crashes repeatedly. We took a conservative view. So if you look at the foundation stepping up and us trying to find our niche, I think that right now we've really gotten to a point, I'm happy to talk about it, where we're pretty, like, I think we know where we're headed, given what we've seen in the market and given the types of projects that have come to us. I'm happy to talk about that if you want to hear about it.
That brings me to how many institutions have already contacted you guys to build or have them build on your network?
Well, I'm going to give you the accurate answer to the question that you're asking. So there's right now, there's about, I think the estimate that we have cutting away this is not people who've sent us an email. These are people who are actively having engineers build, could be an app, could be, more substantive or a large organization. It's, I don't know, 1,700 to 2,000 different projects that are building. Okay, at different levels. And these are deployed, resources actively engaged. The question I think you're asking, so, and by the way, because we're public and permissionless, like we're happy to have anybody that wants to come and start. And I gave this analogy when we first launched, we were, we kind of knew everyone that was coming to build. And then that flipped about 2 years ago to the point Decipher last year, which is our big conference. I think it was now for every project we know about, there are 3.5 or something that are coming that we didn't know were building on us at that point, right? And so if you think about that, back to your question, like the number that we're engaged with right now are those that have more substantive requirements to come into the space, need some help strategically figuring out the best way to implement a strategy, or want to originally build with us a solution and know that if they do that, they can trust the tech is bulletproof and enterprise grade and scalable and everything we talk about. And that number is, I don't know, the number of large institutions, 50, that we're working, if you count like the FIFAs of the world, if you count like the government of Nigeria, if you count Banca d'Italia, if you count, these are substantive efforts that they take time. And the last thing I'll say, and this always drives me nuts when we're talking about the Twitterverse, it's like everyone has this instant gratification. And it's like, you said, and it's like, well, you say what you can when you can. So there's this, do I want to share things or do we want to only say everything when, it's complete? And we don't dictate those timelines a lot of the time. You know what goes on behind the scenes.
Of course.
So, FIFA has been a long process to work with them and their senior leaders to get this thing to where it is. And that's great because we think there's a longer tail and a competitive advantage to those deals than there are when you go down a path which would like, pay to play, quick flip, quick app, sell some NFTs, get out. Like that might make some people happy, but like that's not where our head's at.
A lot of people within this space look for the instant gratification instead of delaying it. And, I can appreciate that approach, everything that you just laid out. Again, this is going to be new to a lot of people, but a lot of people don't seek out answers. They're looking, again, like you said, quick flip, like when is this going to pump and stuff? Meanwhile, you're digging in, trying to build a protocol for years to come for others to build on. And that's why my question was like, have any institutions been in contact with you guys to say, hey, we need Algo to build on? You hear about Ethereum, you hear about, Ripple, where's Algo in the conversation of things?
Yep. Fair enough. And I think that again, look, I also can be accountable. There's always things. I just want like anyone who sees this, this is how I act probably 99% of the time. I mean, so no one's perfect. No company's perfect. There's always things you wish you could do differently or better. Full stop. And there's things that I know we need to do more of. And we've talked a little bit about some of those things. I do think, though, that at our core, we have got really good, really smart people that are passionate about great tech. And I think your point or your question and the point is, how do you continue to sort of market and amplify that? I think that's something that we need to continue to push into. And I think that, like I said, it's finding our niche and describing that. I can talk about that, which I think will help. If you want, I'll give you the high level piece here. So, so as I've thought about it, and again, I'm old, so like I'm coming from the old, like I've been around a long time. However, I would say that one of the things I've said a few times before is that technology ultimately wins when it becomes invisible. Every tech company. And that invisibility doesn't mean irrelevant. It means invisible. So we're on Zoom right now. Like if it takes forever to start, it glitches, it doesn't work, it becomes, it becomes the referee in a hockey game that everyone remembers after the game because of the crap calls and ruins the game. So we want to just have the game. And so ultimately, we believe the best blockchains, the ones that will survive, are the ones that are going to become ironically invisible because people aren't going to know they're using blockchain. Just the same way that, for example, we don't really think I'm going to use the internet today. It's like, no, I'm going to go use Zoom. And you may remember this, David. People used to go, maybe you don't, but I'm going to tell you, I remember when the internet came out, someone would be gone, like, hey, what were you up to this morning? And they'd go, oh, I was surfing the web. You go, surfing the web. You remember that? People said that, and they said it as a legitimate, like, that's a well worth my time to surf the web. And so the thing is, I don't know what's happening there now. We use applications, we build businesses on infrastructure. So first, tech becomes invisible. The second is that every tech company in my mind is a relationship company. Every tech company. It doesn't matter what you are. You're either bringing your customer and your business or your fans and your team closer together, or you're a barrier creating friction. And that's about or yourself and a colleague, or yourself and a friend or a spouse. If it doesn't work, it's relationship hindering. And so every tech company has to take that view. So what have we said? So back to Algorand. I think that really those two mentalities are at play. And behind it, we have seen a big uptick in the types of companies and types of institutions coming to us that have started to reformulate their thinking around Web3 as an engagement opportunity. If you think about customer engagement as a niche, and in particular with us, given what we've seen in sports, which we've talked about FIFA, Napster, which I think that we've been a lead player in that business and helping to facilitate a transformation there. And gaming, if you look at HiveMind, Playground Labs is all about gaming and Web3. And each of those things, people immediately go to like, oh, it's a cool asset, it's an avatar, it's a collectible. Wrong. These organizations are looking to create digital assets, each one of which has the potential to engage and bring them closer. It could be issuing a security token that allows fans to own parts of teams. It could be issuing a bond to help improve facilities in the United States and beyond. It can be a collectible. It can be ticketing. It can be in-game digital asset trades. All of those bring fans and or customers and the businesses and the various together. And so our focus, I think, is going to be, given where we've seen the traction, is really focused on customer engagement and focused in on, sort of continuing to remove the friction between users and creators and artists and players and teams. We're in the sort of gaming, music, and sports, sort of sector within that space where we think there's a lot of room for disruption, and Algorand's technology is particularly suited to make that happen.
Sean, can you see Algorand working with the United States government?
Of course. I mean, would we? Of course. I mean, the question is like, give me the scenario.
What I'm posing here is, people say, well, they might, and we'll get this on, people who will view the podcast or the conversation, as I like to call it. They'll say, well, they might be already working with them. My question is, long term, do you see Algorand working with the U.S. government?
Well, the U.S. government is a very broad term. I think that if you're saying, are there technical and by the way, I'm not trying to caveat. I mean, we're happy to talk to anybody, but I would say that. But like, if you're talking technically, yeah, we're absolutely open. I mean, like Banca d'Italia is a great example. There's a lot of governments and projects. Government in Nigeria is a great example. There's other countries that are trying to push the envelope to say, how do they adopt the tech? And if the U.S. government, was interested in technical exploration, I would, obviously we believe we're well suited to provide, knowledge that could be useful there. So I'd be happy to. And I think, we also have had a number of interactions with, folks in the U.S. Because we believe in the tech, we believe in innovation, and we think the U.S. should be a leader in it.
The reason why I asked you that question is because you're on social media and XLM, XRP, XDC pops up, and people at times leave out, algo, and I'm like, well, why are we leaving out algo? Why can't we, push algo into the conversation? And that's why I asked you that question. Whether or not, it's like, hey, I know you guys are open to it. It's more like, hey, can we put algo into the mix here?
Yeah. I mean, every one of those companies you just rattled off are engaged in different ways, obviously, with the U.S. government. And I say that, we've had good relationships with other governments around the world. El Salvador is an example, another one. I mean, we've gone through the experience several times. And again, I think that there are the transformative nature of this technology, what it does for people, it really changes lives. I mean, if you just give a simple example, if you're in an economy where inflation is even higher than in the U.S., or if you're, worried about just the security of the rights to your ownership of a piece of property or to wages that there's no fraud, you can really transform, and open up the power of a lot of economic engines with tech. And I think that the U.S. is no different. I mean, we should be the leader in tech and innovation. There's with all the resources we have, and I think we all need to step back and say, all of us, like, why are we falling behind? And I think Algorand would be a very vocal participant in helping to change that narrative.
That's one thing that, like, I don't understand about, the United States government. Why are we not embracing technology, and why are we seeing our innovators move on to other countries, and other countries are just, reaching out with open arms saying, let's go, we want to see what you can build. And you know what? They take in the revenue, like the revenue that we are screaming about that we need in the United States of America. We're letting it go out the door. Like, this tech is not, to me, this tech is not here to hurt anybody. If anything, it's going to make society, to me, better. It's much better than the current system that we currently have and operate under.
Right. And I think, well, I mean, look, I would just say this, that if I was going to be kind, I would say that people like this, first of all, I think you've said this on Twitter. I think you've said this, actually, we're still early, right? Like, I think that belief is something that you've expressed a number of times. And I always smile when I see that, because I agree. I think we're probably in the year 2001 relative to the internet right now with respect to blockchain. That would be where I'd peg it, right before there's real adoption and after some of the clutter has cleared. I think that's sort of where we are. And so if we're still early, you have to give, governments, countries, the chance to understand a difficult technology. This is not, put a coin in and get a candy bar. This is like but remember, if you remember back in the day, there was resistance to people adopting ATM machines, man. I mean, like, people wanted to hand their check to someone. And then, by the way, people didn't want to give a credit card online for the longest time. Like, they didn't want to do it, and fair enough. So governments, there's a learning curve they have to go through. And I think then there's, obviously certain things, people find certain stump speeches and they'll grab certain headlines for their own personal effect. And that's a thing that happens everywhere in the world. But, I think there's a bunch of misinformation out there about blockchain, and that's working its way out. So back to your, comment, I think that the US is taking it very seriously. And I'd like to believe trying to navigate it in a way that is purely innovation enabling, and it's probably just going to take a little longer than we'd like. But again, it's explain blockchain. Like, I've tried to explain blockchain to my parents, and it's not going to happen. So
it's not, well, not for the, I mean, maybe in 10 years. I mean, it's really difficult. It's a difficult, like Labor Day, like a few days ago, like I'm sitting and again the questions come and I'm like, I'm really explaining it in layman's terms and nobody's getting it. And I'm like, you know what? There's plenty of good sites to go on, and you can read all about it if you're really
You
that
have to do the
interested.
work.
You do.
You have to do the work, and that's not something you. I mean, you have to do the, like, at this point, the industry also is really, quite honestly, like, needs to do more of the work for the people that are trying to engage,
So
because
you're
there
saying
is that first.
we shouldn't go ahead and be toxic and yell at people all day?
Correct. I think, there, the clan, like, the mentality of, like, everyone has their group, and they follow their favorite project, and then they attack people that, I mean, this is going to be a multi-chain world. Interoperability is super important. And again, that's why, like, we're so excited about state proofs, which is a first step towards truly decentralized bridges. Like, that is a legit piece of innovation given to the world, that is going to transform how chains are both interoperable and quantum security of chains and transactions. That's a big deal. So things like that, if you take the mentality that the pie gets bigger, and if nothing's absolute, I win, you lose, you win, I lose, you start finding people that are builders and believers in creating something better for everyone versus winning my project versus yours. I think there's going to be room for several winners, and I think the projects that take that sort of longer term collaborative approach to making it easier for people to understand and adopt are the ones that are going to be around. It's not true 100% of the time, again, but it is, I think, a minimum requirement to be one of the people, one of the projects.
Is Algo competing with Bitcoin, or is Algo just in a the reason why I'm trying to pose this question so the toxic maxis don't get upset.
Okay.
Because the toxic Bitcoin maxis that don't represent Bitcoin say that 99.9% of all the projects out there are complete scams. That's their way of thinking. And this is the reason why, like, you have the United States and the SEC and all these people look at us in a way where, man, this space is horrible. We can't get into it because there's scams all around. I don't know. Listen, I would say that 5% of the stuff that's out there, yeah, it was made 2 minutes ago, and you have people calling themselves devs that don't know anything about even Visual Basics. Forget about C++. So my thing is, can we actually build in this space? Like, we can like Bitcoin, but can we actually also like other protocols that are legit, that are trying to go ahead and solve a problem? Is there anything wrong with this concept? Like, I've just dumbed down that entire sentence for everybody.
Yeah.
Or I should say.
Yeah. No, I mean, again, like, it feels like I'm going to sound like the old man that said, in my day, I had to walk uphill both ways to school and back home. We've seen all this before. Again, people will go back and read about the oil boom or the gold rush. I mean, seriously, these are like in your history books. There's always junk. There was junk at the start of the internet. I mean, this is, again, that was a fad for a while, and I mean, it's the same thing. And so I think that look, there are different contributions to the future sort of economic exchange that exists. People bring different things. Not everybody's bringing the same thing. You're going to like Algorand is built for adoption and use, and for security, and Bitcoin is a standard that is there, but the chain itself, given the performance of it, is not meeting even current performance standards if you're looking to be someone trading an asset. Now, it doesn't mean that it's a transformative piece of tech, but at the end of the day, it doesn't mean I don't like, let's just be clear, I am super impressed with and respect what Bitcoin is and has become. But that doesn't mean then there's room for no others. There's always noise in the system. But again, Algorand's all about it. We are a legitimate piece of technology. And interestingly, the algo is critical for the operation of the technology. I can make the argument the algo is actually a piece of tech, because the way we propagate and verify blocks is based on this consensus mechanism that randomly selects algos to vote. And that is, without it, the chain doesn't work. And so at the end of the day, the algo has a technical aspect to it. And then it is used as a basis of exchange. And I think we, though, spend all of our time on the former, which is the tech. Like that is all we talk about. And that's why, again, we're still innovating and launching upgrades, within months of, talking about them, versus the promise of tomorrow. And people can either like that when they hear me talk about it and say, I'd like to be a part of, a real substantive group that's doing this, and people can say whatever the heck else they want to say about it. But for better or worse, we'll be judged by the quality of our tech and our ability to get it adopted by companies coming into the Web3 space.
I think people should appreciate transparency and honesty versus the PC answers and walking on eggshells. So, that I appreciate showing up on that. DeFi has been a hit lately, and I really mean that, a hit. What do you feel about DeFi's future, given its current state, where we had all these implosions happen? Yeah. I can list them, but I'm sure you already know the list.
Yeah, I think, but, so David, isn't it the same as what I just talked about? Like again, if people can come build, then you're going to have a mix of actors and quality. And, we don't control, Algorand, we don't control any of that. People just are going to come build like you could build on the internet. Obviously, I think there is an up-leveling of we're going to see a continued up-leveling of the quality and substance of the various players in the space. I think, quite honestly, clarity on what is required when, from authorities that have the ability to give that clarity, should be welcomed by the legitimate players. And I think that it will be ultimately a useful way to make everyone feel better about, again, the great tech that's there. But yeah, you can go through any industry and find what you're describing. We're just in the middle of a mix of issues around other companies that are out in that space.
I think Congress should be, I think it's up to Congress to write these regulations that are, I would say, blockchain crypto friendly, to allow our innovators to continue to build some amazing things. Right. That, like myself, like people, like I'm a crypto maxi. So I'm like, yes, I love Bitcoin. I own Bitcoin. But at the end of the day, I'm rooting for every legitimate project to win, because if there's more tech being built and there's more healthy competition, it's not a bad thing. It's really not a bad thing. That's how things grow. It's like, but to push things away and say like they're useless, and also at the same time, Congress. I like to talk about the United States because I know what's happening. Like you just named a few countries where ALGO is working with others to go ahead and develop, or at least provide an opportunity for others to build some sort of infrastructure. My thing is, I would love for it to happen in the United States, and I would hate to see our our innovators leave here to go to other countries and operate from there. Leading to this, NFTs. NFT. Where's ALGO in the game of NFTs? Where do you guys stand on NFTs?
And
well, I'm not just talking artwork here. This is not about the artwork. I'm talking about the tech itself.
Yeah. Well, I think, look, there's a huge opportunity for NFTs done right to sort of open up, illiquid capital, to protect and secure rights to be fun and create and extend the shelf life of investments made in games, for example. Extend the shelf life and relevance in ways that people can engage with creators and fans. I guess I would say this, we're big fans of, in the same way that we're big fans of legitimate blockchain projects and big fans of legitimate businesses that come build and try to create something of substance on blockchains. We're big fans of legitimate and credible NFT projects. So like if your Lofty AI, which is on Algorand, is tokenizing tranches of real estate and doing that and allowing people to purchase in, at 50, 60, 70, $100, that creates liquidity. Imagine that with a piece of commercial properties and the amount that these developers have locked up in those properties, you could offer liquidity to those properties by doing that. Imagine this is a good example. So the government of Nigeria has picked like 7 or 8 projects that they want to start with, but one of them is music rights for their artists and country. Now Nigeria's got about north of 200 million people, obviously 206 million, but somewhere in that range. And they are one of the fastest growing music economies in the world. And it is a country that obviously has less economic heft as United States, and so there's people there that let's just be super sensitive. Anywhere where you can open up opportunities for people to thrive economically is a great gift. And so they are like something as simple as artists are going to be able to trademark and capture their whatever they create, musicians as NFTs, and they can do it on chain versus having to physically travel to a trademark or patent office to get a piece of paper that has no validity someone takes. So all of a sudden you start taking a group of people that can trade and issue their art, music, right, and get royalties from it, where they're getting nothing now. And so you start saying, that is a legitimate, to me, use of an NFT. The real estate example is legitimate. And, I'm not going to get into, but I think, the FIFA NFT marketplace, there's a lot of fans of soccer. People do like collectibles. This is going to be a legitimate, marketplace that is going to deliver great products to fans. And that's great. My father had baseball cards, like he loved them. And I think, so back to your point, I cut the wheat from the chaff here and be really focused on, again, that same mentality. Find a real business plan, find real value, real use, real economic substance, and we're bullish on that. You want to take a picture of your elbow and throw it up there? Good for you. Good job. Maybe someone will and call it, elbows.com. I don't know, but I forget it. Like, I'm not super excited about that one. Maybe it'll turn into something great now, but who knows?
Oh man, that's actually hilarious. There is actually an ape project that is on ALGO. I got to meet I forgot his name. Oh my God, he'll probably, well, at least if I'm saying it, he'll know who I'm talking about. He was outside of a hotel. He was literally just talking about ALGO nonstop, and he was doing just a hand painting of, I don't know if it's not a board ape, it was some sort of ape from the ALGO ecosystem, which was cool. And he was just and he's lately come onto my spaces just talking about ALGO. And people are like, what's ALGO? And I was just like, are you guys serious? Like, do you guys not like venture out there and just like look into other things and just at least look into it? I'm not saying go into anything. I never tell anybody to go into anything, but just look outside and like just figure it out.
Yeah.
By the
way,
but
people consume curated content to their particular interests in the moment, and the system of content consumption that we're in right now around the world is one that it excludes significant swaths of information you may never see on your radar. But fair enough. We're, like I said earlier, I think we're getting out there more and again promoting the quality of our technology.
the FIFA deal was amazing, and that's going to be ridiculous. People, I think if you live in the United States of America, you just don't understand how big football, aka
Football,
soccer, is.
football.
Because
Yep,
I've always football, how big football outside of the
that's
United
right.
States is. It's
That's right.
humongous.
It
So
is.
that got, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Um, just two more thoughts. Ethereum, what
Yep.
do you think about it, the Ethereum merge? What are your thoughts on that? You think it
Well,
happens?
look,
Hiccups.
what's that?
Think it actually happens, or you think there'll be hiccups?
Oh, in our space, I've always said, when it happens is when it happens. I think that I have no reason to believe it won't. Um, to be honest with you, I think it only helps the industry. I mean, that is a big, powerful community, and I think by making it more relevant to a broader group of people, it can only help. Because remember, I was talking about there's going to be a lot of winners, and the more people that contribute is good. So I'm rooting for it. But as to whether or not it's going to happen, I mean, I would just say, in my experience, nothing is ever as great as it sounds. And so, like, I expect that it will do well and good things, and that then people will jump all over it and make their comments. I mean, that's just how it works.
I'm gonna ask you, 10 years from now,
Yes.
where do you see Algo? Where is it sitting?
I think it's a great point. If I go back to what I said a minute ago, I feel like, look, if the bet we've placed on Algorand is the right one, which is focused on the tech and mainstream adoption, that it will go through a period of being incredibly visible, with deals like the one that we're talking about with FIFA, and then it will become infrastructure that my kids, your kids, other people, friends are using, but have no idea they're using it. It'll just be in the background operating and allowing people to do what they want without friction getting in the way. I mean, I know that sounds, but if 10 years time, I think our goal, and Silvio, I know he said this, is he believes the protocol is a gift to the world. Like he takes it that seriously. And if that's true, then it should be a gift to the world, and everyone should just be using it, but not necessarily knowing that it's there.
What would you say to the community that's been patiently waiting?
Well, Juan, thank you. I mean, in all seriousness, we've got a great community, super passionate community. At times tough, but yes, thank you, David, for your help. But I would say that, but I do think thank you, but and also that we are working. Like there is a serious commitment to making Algorand what everyone hopes it will be. And I've been saying this for quite some time, well before I took this role, that it's all about enduring value. It's all about long-term value. And it's like, you got to just step away from the haters and the speculative comments, and the get rich quick. Because to be honest with you, like, we're doing the work, and I think real projects have to roll up their sleeves and do the work.
Well, I'll say this, you guys have done a tremendous job building out the protocol. Like it is, it's 100%. I can, not financial advice, but I'm just saying the protocol itself is amazing. To me, it's always come down to when branding and marketing. It's more so that's my
Yep.
only quarrel
Yep.
is branding and marketing. And I think that you guys, the entire foundation, you guys are smart enough to realize, well, maybe that's the next step. The FIFA thing is not something to be brushed away. I would just love to see, like, Algo come out of nowhere and people are like, oh, but I didn't know about this.
Yeah.
And that to me will be the moment. As soon as I hear people say, oh, but I didn't know about this, that'll be the moment for me that, you guys are really on the game in terms of, dumbing it down and putting it into layman's terms about in regards to what Algo brings to the table.
Yeah.
I know that you're a busy man. I'm actually, again, congratulations on the new position.
Thank you. Thank you.
I hope that you do amazing. You're cool. you're really cool. I mean, like, I had an easy conversation with you. Even forget about this conversation, just an easy conversation on Twitter. Like, I was expecting not to hear from you for about 2 years. Instantly, like, like we chatted, and you came on here. You took the time, and I really appreciate that, because at the end of the day, this is for the community. I do this for the community so they can go ahead and at least tap into their favorite projects. And Algos is one of at least my favorite projects, and I know a lot of people that would say the same thing. So
that's very nice of you to say that. Thank you. That's very nice. Thank you.
So
thanks for having me.
I appreciate you. I know you have to go. I hope you have a hell of a meeting, and I hope that you have a hell of a quarter four.
Thank you so much, David. It was awesome being here, and really, really great to meet you in person.
Thank you. And that was episode 10 of Gokhshtein Unfiltered. Tune in Wednesday, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you guys can go ahead and check out me and Sean as we talk about Algo and a few other subjects. Thanks a lot and have a great day. This show is powered by Bitcoin 2023. Get your discount on. Discount code GMedia 2023. That's right, GMedia 2023. Put it into the promo section or the discount section, whatever section there is, before you buy the ticket to go to the biggest event, Bitcoin event in the world. Again, GMedia 2023. And on that note, I'm out.